Very good evening to all of you. We are very much happy to invite you all for this final day of webinar on environmental studies. Today we are going to see the two sessions. The first session is chaired by Engineer S. Sudalai, Assistant Professor, Center for Pollution Control and Environmental Engineering, Pondicherry University. Sir is going to handle the topic on solid waste management. In continue to that, Dr. Vidya Ram Kumar, Chairperson District Local Compliance Committee, Government of Puducherry, is going to handle the session on women and child welfare. So on behalf of Women's Polytechnic College, Puducherry, and Kasturba College for Women, Puducherry, I welcome you all for this wonderful webinar. Now I request Dr. Bhuvaneshwari to introduce the today's resource person, Engineer S. Sudalai. Madam, please.
I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Sudalai, Assistant Professor from Pondicherry University. Sir has completed his MTech from Pondicherry Engineering College. Sir has worked as Senior Design Engineer, Public Health Engineering in L&T. Sir also worked as Production In Charge, Bharat Starch Industries. Sir is currently a technical expert member for implementation of solid waste management rules in Pondicherry. Sir is an excellent teacher, environmental activist, motivates the student in caring and protecting the environment. With these few words, I hand over the session to Mr. Sudalai. Thank you, sir.
Very good afternoon to all. I'm thankful to the entire team for giving this such opportunity. As introduced, I was taking care of solid waste management for past 11 years in Pondicherry University. I'm taking this course. I'm also practicing some of the practices in community level. So right now, the time limit is 30 minutes. So at the best, we try to review some of the important aspects of solid waste management. The first thing, like the presentation goes like this, we'll have some insight on collection, segregation, and transportation of solid waste. Then most of the time we used to have a word called engineering, but here it is not much on engineering. It is more on management. That's what the topic even given as solid waste management instead of solid waste treatment or something. If you say water, we will have water, wastewater treatment systems. But in the case of solid waste, we need to manage it actually more than the treatment process. And we have to have certain insights of hazardous waste management because it is incorporated. Most of us need to identify which one is hazardous, which one is normal waste, that's municipal waste. Then we need to have certain knowledge on the legislation which is adjuncted to the solid waste management. So in the half an hour time, we try to justify for all the topics to be covered. At least if not detailing, at least to some extent we'll try to cover. So Indian perspectives, how we are looking into the solid waste management. Basically, when we talk about solid waste management as a subject, it's actually a subject by mistake. If everyone taking care of taking care of the resources, then we need not to have a separate subject called solid waste management or something. So it is basically, there's not a subject like physics or chemistry. More than that, it's a subject of, it's a cut section of everyone's mistake. So we have to make some modification and we try to make the system sustainable. So we need to have a separate subject called solid waste. Basically in India, like before 20 years or 10 years before even, we don't have much problem with the solid waste because our income or the level of economical flow is not much influenced us. But now we are well to do purchase, or we have more purchase power right now. In this scenario, the waste generation is higher. So, like rapid urbanization is the main reason for the solid waste generation. Then overstressed urban infrastructure. That's yet another example, because if the urban structure is parallelly arranged, then there won't be any crunch or crisis for the resource as well as waste management. But now, sometimes unplanned urban infrastructures leads to overstressing the solid waste generations and inadequate capacity of ULBs. ULBs means urban local bodies. In case of Pondicherry, in case it's a union territory. So we all know that we have corporations, cities are taken care by corporation, towns are taken care by municipalities, and villages are taken care by the community panchayats. So these are the sectors, like if you say a rural body or urban body, the local bodies will be the responsible person who's taking care of solid waste management. Like all the ULBs, like richest ULBs in India is Mumbai, one of the richest ULB, urban local bodies, Mumbai local body. Even they are suffering with managing the solid waste, especially the floating population. The the residual population in Mumbai is limited, but when you're thinking about the floating population, it's higher. So, ULBs are struggling to have a budget for the solid waste management, and lack of equipments to take care of the solid waste being generated. And there is a huge lacuna in the planning and the collection and transportation. There's a big gap in what is being generated, what is being transported, and what is being treated. There is a lot of gaps. Like in the coming slides, we get to know how much is the money we are splitting for collection and for the transportation. Then contamination of surface and groundwater by leachates. This is a major problem. There are several problems, but the major problem is the waste is left out in several places, and that leads to groundwater and that surface water bodies contaminations. The primary example, everyone knows about this example. Most of the wetlands are taken care by maybe the last presentations by scientist Vipin Babu might have told about the importance of wetlands and the richness of biodiversity. But the contradiction is we don't have place to dispose the solid waste. So we are trying to find some place in the nearby water body. The well-known example is Pallikarne Lake, which is considered under Wetland Act, but still we don't have any place. We cannot blame the Corporation of Chennai because they don't have place to dump their waste. So what happens is they collect the waste and they dump on the wetland. So the groundwater and the surface water is greatly affected by the mismanagement of solid waste. Then the last one is implementation of solid waste management rules. It's not just a one rule. There are several rules, and this juncture we need to introduce a person called Almitra Patil. There is a lady, 80 plus. She's a engineer from she's a foundry engineer. She's from Gujarat. The first voice of her, she raised her first voice during the panic situation in Surat by there's a disease outbreak called plague, and she found the reason for that disease outbreak, and that happens to be the open dumps. Like open dump is the source for the rats to come up. So what happened was it spreaded a lot of disease. So she thought about it, and she started like us, like everyone, she's also thinking, and she started reacting upon that. So as a result, we have solid waste management rule. Then she's not stopped there. Then she started working on implementation of solid waste management rule, budgetary limits for solid waste management rules, how you're going to implement it, what are all the plans you have, and everything has to be submitted systematically. And she made the bureaucratic arrangements for Indian government to work on solid waste management. And presently, she's the technical expert member for solid waste management in even by the Supreme Court. So, like one single person, many people are working, and one the noted person in the solid waste management is Almitra Patil. Probably you can see her website. It is open for anyone to see and get the ideas how the solid waste management is being taken care by one single person. And basically, in my language, is the architect of entire solid waste management in India. I'm just showing some of the population that actually I have live data to show you. So I'm just using some of the data which is outdated. But if provision is there, I can show you the right data present today. But our population and how much amount of solid waste being generated is a big question. Basically, Indian city, the person living in India is generating 0.4 to 0.7 kg of solid waste. For example, one single family is there. If the family have 4 members, the one member may generate solid waste 0.4 to 0.7. Why it is required? I'm not a statistician. I'm not a person who is directly related to the solid waste management. Why I need to concern about the amount of waste being generated? This is a major question anybody can ask. But the problem is, government is spending money on every individual on annual basis for the collection of solid waste which being generated by the individuals. So the amount of waste being generated is very crucial. It is very essential. Even by 2000, NEERI has given a report, and they have only given the data that 0.4 to 0.7 is the total waste generated by the Indian citizens. Okay, the next thing. Urban populations are increasing, and we need to have lot of stress is built up on the corporations to take care of the people who's living in the cities. So what is the next thing is, so we have a manual which is previously called a CPHEO manual, that is Central Public Health Environmental Engineering Organization. They have given guidelines for taking care of the solid waste management, and now it is converted into 2 parts. One is Swachhta for urban and other for rural. So that is the Bible for how to implement the solid waste management in Indian regions. So any person who want to know about the solid waste management should have a glimpse on these 2 reports. One is urban, other one is for rural. If you are conversant with Google, you can find the reports. Even if it is not, I can send this link to this. I will send you the link where you can get the materials. The second thing is how much money we are spending for different aspects of solid waste. This is the one important insight. The total amount of money we are spending is the major amount of money we are spending is 60 to 70% for collection. Even for collection, I cannot say even for collection. Only for collection, it is 70%, and for transportation, it is 30%. Only 5% is being spent on treatment process. So this shows how much it is important to take care of the solid waste at the source. When you are taking care of the solid waste at the source, then 60 to 70% of the collection cost will be spent on the collecting and transporting and finally reaching the dump site. So what is happening? How things are being collected? There are 2 ways we can collect the solid waste. One is whole container system. Other one is stationary container system. You might have seen those bins in the street corner, and some of the big vehicles comes over there. So if you're keeping the bins on the street corner, and if the vehicle comes and collects, it's called stationary container system. So 2 type of collection systems existing all over solid waste management terms, and other one is collection services. Collection services is something different. What is that is how people are collecting, sanitary workers collect waste from your house. Here where the exact problem exists, because the urban local body spends some amount of money, but the residential area is not going to be same for all the regions. Some people may be coming under low income group, high income group, and medium income group. So region specific, salary specific, income specific, a route has to be estimated, and you have to design the collection services, and collection system has to be incorporated. All makes the solid waste management plan to be little more cumbersome, because we don't have much split of arranged towns. We have almost all are intermixed. So we cannot have this kind of exact system. And the person comes into the job by 8 o'clock, he need to finish the job before 8 hours. That's a Labor Commission has given the very clear rule cuts. So the solid waste manager should plan accordingly. You need to collect the solid waste within one day, and the labors are very limited, and waste generation is huge, and he need to collect and transport and properly to the dump site. And he cannot use all the routes. He need to use certain routes for certain time only. So a lot of concerns are there. What common man can do for this? That is the question. Like so many issues are there which what government can think of. What a common man can do is, like first step is you need to take care of your waste generation rate. How much waste we are generating? Nothing wrong. Nobody is going to question why you are wasting this much. Nothing. No. What the question is, don't consider that as a waste. If you are feeling that it is a waste, you channelize it to the next user. That is the first link we have to generate. So how to establish that one? Well, it's very simple. We can start with milk. I'll just take a case study as a milk for another 5 minutes. If you take a milk packet, the packet have plastics. Plastic is a big nuisance for the government, but it is not a nuisance for the kabadiwala, because they get money out of the waste which we cannot manage. Even the government body is struggling to manage. Even the public is trying to find some way out of it. But the kabadiwala or rack pickers, it is their livelihood. So learn from them. We need not to learn from the textbooks, but learn from the people who is making use of waste to make money, to make their livelihood. So regularizing those people is the agenda, major agenda for the present solid waste management rule. Most of the workers are like, they are not organized. Organize them and make use of their resources for disposing our solid waste in a proper manner. So I'll coming back to the example. When you take the milk packet, you collect it and send it to that. Maybe some of the kabadiwala can collect it and give some amount of money. It can be slightly modified with the cooperation of some of the malls or something like that. Even I have seen some of the malls in Pondicherry, even they ask any item of recyclables, you give it to them and they will give some subsidies for you. So it's a big example how, like, we need to aware that nothing is waste. We can make use of the waste in a very useful manner. That's one thing. Second thing is, like, mixing the waste is another big problematic one. Mixing the waste. One example, like if you say PVC, the PVC is a plastic material. Sometimes it can be recycled if it is not mixed with the biodegradable waste. Say for example, you have a chutney or something, you pack that in a plastic bag, and after using it, still it is there and you are throwing it. Now what happened? Almost all the cows are rearing on the dump sites and they're taking the plastic. That's one issue. The second issue is, when you are treating when you are collecting the plastics, it's very difficult, because the fungal infection within the plastic bags is huge. Any person who is interested in taking care of the solid waste management, when he is taking the plastic material, it is difficult for him to deal with the plastic, because the food material is subjected to huge fungal contamination. So, like, it is very difficult for any person who's dealing with the solid waste. It is really troublesome for them. We have a simple step how to manage, how to segregate it, and how best we can make use of the segregation. So one thing is, like, there are many sites right now, many institutions have started coming up to encourage composting in the residential level. So we can pursue some of the composting method, so that we can segregate our organic waste from the inorganic. Inorganic or non-biodegradable can be easily recycled, or it can be made money. It can be used for making money for some other society people. So it can just transfer the material to other package so that they can make use of that. And one more system called there is another system called the garbage enzymes. What is that is, like, if you have a fruit peels, example, citrus fruit peels, like orange or lemon or anything like that. In such cases, so what you can, okay. Still continue, no matter, just continue. So what happens is, like, when you're having a citrus fruit, like, most of the time you use floor cleaner, and even for cleaning vessels, we have a lot of agents to purchase. So what you can simply replace is, you take the fruit peel, put it in a bottle, and what best you can do is, இது இல்லை சார், இன்னொன்று வந்துச்சு சார், இன்னொரு ப்ரெசன்ட் இப்போ க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிடுங்க சார். இப்போ ஒரு பிடிஎஃப் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிடுறீங்களா சார்? இன்னும் சார் yes. Sir, actually, நான் presentation போயிட்டு இருந்தது இன்னொரு slides. Solid waste management. இதான் சார் கேட்டிருக்கேன். இதுவும் இல்லை சார், இந்த ரூல்ஸ் ஒரே ஒரு 5 minutes Hello. I was just talking about the biocleaner from the fruit waste which we generated in the house. Like if you have orange or any lemon or any kind of citrus fruit, the peels maybe you will be having, those peels can be easily converted as a biocleaner. Only thing is you have to add certain proportions of jaggery into that, and you can add water into that and close the bottle. Like you take a fresh bottle and add fruit peels and add jaggery into that and add water into that. You can close it. After 3 months, it's become a biocleaner. You can find n number of videos in YouTube which talks about that. Don't think that it is not scientific. Even there are papers in a very good reputed journal on this particular issue. People have done and they have identified what all the biosurfactants being generated from this process, and it is well documented in a very scientific journal that it is a useful process. So make use of the fruit peels in a very controlled manner, so that you can replace the cleaners using this waste material. So like it is just a simple example. When you think about waste utilization, there are plenty methods are available, so you can make use of any of the methods to take care of, to reduce the source. Then for transportation is not in our hand. Only thing is we can segregate it. The government has to take care about the segregating the waste. Like when the common person segregate the waste, the government should have the provision to collect the waste in a separated manner. They cannot commingle it. So that's a big thing we need to work on. Every municipalities or corporation should encourage, as well as not only it is not end by encouraging them. Then the part of government is they have to collect the segregated manner. Then the total waste being generated and being transported will be significantly reduced, so that the transportation cost can be limited. Then we can move on to the treatment systems. So like when we talk about the solid waste definitions, like different terms are there. Garbage, refuse, these are the general terms we use, but rubbish, garbage, refuse are different. All are not same. So we need to be very clear about what kind of definition we have for solid waste being generated. Then what are the types of solid waste being generated, source, characteristics, and what are the health, environmental health aspects when you take care of different solid waste management systems. So these are all the general things we need to aware. And this presentation, we may not going to detail it everything, but we just get to know that these are all the aspects we need to understand. One is solid waste types. What is the source? What is the characteristics of any particular source? So let's see, like what is the solid waste definition? The solid waste includes all solid and semi-solid materials that process no longer of sufficient value to retain. That is the term. But something which is not valuable for us, it is valuable for others one. So connect the things. I just avoid some of the definitions. So like sources from the residential area, commercial area, institutional area, and the separate construction demolition waste, and all municipal services. Even the treatment plants have a lot of waste, industrial and agriculture. These are the different sources where the solid waste is coming from. So we are talking about residential and commercial probably, institutional, and more toward the like if you are in a college or school, then institutional waste you can work on. Like first thing of working on this particular aspect is inventorization. How much waste being generated, that is very important. So there are several manuals are available. Before you start working, you can guess some items and you can find the volume of that manuals are available. Just go through like solid waste auditing. So waste audit manuals are there. Just go through that. If you want to get to some idea, use the CAC manual, which is exclusively for school solid waste management systems. Green school initiatives they have taken, and they have given a manual. Just go through that. That will be much more useful to us. Then like when you are talking about residential area, what you get to know is like what is the family functionality. Is it single family or detached dwelling? I'll just give you some interesting example. Even in Pondicherry, there is an issue. Like if you say home and house, both are different. Like the problem is one house will be there, and there will be a rental. There will be another family is taking the rent of that particular same house. When we are charging the solid waste collection, the local sanitary people come and they will ask for extra charges, which is essential for the functionalities of the collection process. So people will say it's only one house, don't count it as a two home. The problem starts. The waste generated from the house might be from two family, but the problem, what they say is it's only single house, so we cannot give. So we need to take care of how much gates, one gate, how many houses are there. That is very essential. So when you are taking care of solid waste management, even in a hostel, so we have to, even in a residential building within a university campus or any campus, we should understand how many homes are there, how many families are there in a one particular structure. That is very important for calculating the generation rate. What we do with the generation rate. The generation rate is very basic data to design how much area we require for solid waste management. In case if you're interested to do solid waste management for your institution, you need a place. To calculate the place, we need to know how much amount of volume of solid waste being generated. That can be calculated considering 1% produce 0.4 and multiply with the number of population, you'll be getting the total waste generated from the particular population. So using that, we can devise the treatment systems. Like what are all the type of waste we can anticipate is generally the paper waste, then plastics, textiles, leather, food waste, glass, and metal hazardous waste. You may be wondering what is hazardous waste in this. I'll just give an example. Every house have tube lights. At least 5-6 tube lights are there. At maximum duration for tube light is maybe 2 years. You say every 2 years you are replacing 5 tube lights. Where the tube light goes, where your remote batteries goes, where your mobile charger one-out charges goes, all are going in, entering into the dump site. And where the used tablets are going, where the unused tablets are going, like all are entering into the municipal solid waste. So Government of India started thinking of this type of waste, and they have made a separate rule for every sources. So every waste. One is solid waste management, that is municipal solid waste being generated from the house. It includes household hazardous waste, sanitary napkins, and everything. And second thing is there's a separate rule for plastic waste management rule. If you want to do anything with plastic waste, concern on plastic waste management rule. They have implementation guidelines. CPCB, like Central Pollution Control Board, has given a consolidated manual for treating the plastic waste. I'll give one example here, like how the plastic waste can be segregated and how it can be processed. If possible, I'll show this video. If it is working with you, it's fine. If not, let me check with other options. Okay. I think I need to finish within 5 minutes. So like if it is working well, it's good. The biggest problem with the solid waste management is before we start, everything ends. Morning starts, we have to collect the waste, and before that, 10 years over, and we cannot do anything with that. So very similarly, it's applicable here. So what you are seeing here is it's just a common plastics available in the dump site. Like we have taken some material. So this is like agricultural field. The seeds are being packed in this pad, and they used to for grinding it they use this. And you can find the mushroom plates and some of the dish bowl cups and covering papers, and these are like polypropylene material. So these are the different materials just to represent the plastics. What they do with this, like everything is to be collected, and this person is from Pondicherry. Is made this particular frame. Apart from this frame can be used for housing industry. Also this can be used, same material. This has been loaded here. After loading it here, it's been pulverized and it has been molded and been extruded over here. After this is extruder actually. After being extruded, this can be made as a frame. We have been working with this project, and we got some grants from our Pondicherry University to make a fancy chair out of waste being generated in Pondicherry University campus. We are trying it. What you are seeing, one frame. This frame is for chair, making the chair. This is the workshop we have been working. All the waste being collected is pulverized, and we are heating it. After even while heating, we should not we should take care of the dioxin emissions and all. So we take care of PVC. We should not mix into that. So polypropylene, high impact plastics can be used for this, and this frame is made out of plastic. This is one thing. And even we have made plastic bricks. We have to thank Pondicherry government. The Pondicherry government, in the last lab meeting, there is a meeting called called for implementing the solid waste management. Last meeting, they have approved the solid waste bricks, the bricks made out of plastic waste. So in days to come, we may control the waste being the plastic waste generated in the dump sites. And there are several schemes to take care of the legacy waste. That is also Pondicherry government is working. So government side, they're doing a lot of good jobs. Like, let's see how things are going to approach in near future. And one important thing I just show you here, are you able to, yeah. So what you're seeing here is a temple. Even there is a video. This particular temple is located in the, near the Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu boundary. Thennambakam is the place name. And what this temple is, why it has been brought here is nearly close to 4 lakh people are coming here on Chitrai month, actually 1 month in the month of April. So like it's 4 lakh people are visiting the temple, and the temple is have a lot of natural scenic beauty, but the solid waste being generated here is really creating a lot of problems to the ecosystem. So you can find how much of waste being generated. In a community level, how to tackle this is we made a small case study. So we made 3 meter distance, and we found how much amount of solid waste being generated. So we can see some of the pictures when we start doing the process. Even the auto driver came forward, and many people started cooperating with us. And what you are seeing in this particular picture is we are making 3 meter square. Randomly we made in different places, and we calculated how much amount of waste being generated, and you can find like paper and like you can see what all the waste being generated here. So this been taken for audit. Once this been taken for audit, we inform the particular temple authority that this is the waste being generated here. This particular item can be recycled, this can be recycled, this can be recycled. So we told the recycle potential, but they said there is no value for us. No one is going to collect and make use of this for making money. So what we did was we collected voluntarily, and few people helped us, and we settled it, and we got the money also. Later on, the temple picked up some potential. So this is the status, like how these things are happening. Even for the Pani Puri wala is bringing this kind of thing. So like many issues are there. So we started working on it, and we spoke with the authorities, and have succeeded. It's a flagged title. This person is the temple authority. He started cooperating with us. We visited some of the places, and what happened was, this is the banana leaf we started replacing. We struggled actually, but still there is a lot of hope. Some of the volunteers came forward after hearing, my own family, my friends. We all went there, and we educated the people, and we successfully replaced more than 4,000 plates. 4,000 plastic plates we completely replaced. It's a whole entire day We worked on it, and the response was totally good. Some people came to the temple, they were more appreciated this particular initiatives. Then they came forward to sell some of the bags. So this person is the brother of yesterday's presenter, like Rajamanikam. He have bags. He called, he came to the temple, he get to know, then he started selling the bags for low cost, 5 rupees, 10 rupees. Even we studied how people are accepting it. Then there is no much acceptance. Then when we approached the temple authority, then the temple authority told all the shops, you have to replace the plastic bags with this paper bag. So there is a NGO called Buds of Heaven, no? Buds of Heaven, Ms. Sahayam, that lady is good enough to give her paper bags. These paper bags are made from mentally challenged people. They made up bags. God grace, why we are saying mentally challenged? They are mentally sound, and they made the paper bags out of that. We almost all the shops been given the plastic paper bags, and everyone accepted it, and it was a big change for us, and it is really motivated. Like, this can be possible. It is not just a story or just not a theory class we can discuss in the classroom. We have to come out of the classroom to know about, do something about the plastic waste. Like, second thing is, what is the change afterward is, we started the temple authority, after seeing the place looking good, they started having a boundary. They told not to sell the oil and camphor and all the things. It's totally motivating. Now the temple is totally transformed. Now they're going for implementing the solid waste management to the other level. So this story I just want to show you. And one more thing, in case if you are basically what we are doing as a teacher, what we can do is, so you can see some of the picture here in the corner. What it is one of the villager is ready to replace the plastic bag with the teak leaf and Indian almond. There is another tree called Vadula Maram. In locally they say, and English they call it as Terminalis catapa, Indian almond. That leaf is having a lot of medicinal values. We can replace that with the plastics. So this is yet another example. This is made out of reagent bottles. You can make a chairs out of that. So this is one example. My students are good enough to work with me. So this is one simple example how we are making the compost. Because of the university, there is a proposal. A lot of dry leaves were started coming. So risk of forest fire is there. So we requested the students. So we had a composting. So this is the picture, and these are all the pictures we made out of waste. These are the students who are involved in the collecting the waste, and they made it as a very artistic material. So the last one I'll show in 2 minutes. So this is a temple survey we have done. So you can see here like how they cooperated. These are the materials. Time being, I can show like this only. I cannot detail how much things are collected. So only thing is, what I'm saying is, even a single citizen, especially the teacher, if he thinks he can do something, it is very simple. It is not common for any other professional. If a teacher decides something to be done, and it can be easily done. So that is the only thing I wish to think. And you have to be you have to set as example. This is one last picture I wish to show. This is the risk. People are told this has to be settled down because it's from our campus. So the dried leaves are there. I given as an assignment. So my students cooperated with me. They made it into 2 batches. 1 batches came, and you have to come down to the field. Otherwise, nothing will happen. So this is myself. We collected the dried leaves. So after collecting that, what we have done is we collected the cow dung. We entered into the our own campus. So this is the cow dung. You have to set as an example. Otherwise, they have initial barrier. You have to break the barrier. You have to touch the soil. Only then people will change. So you have to encourage the students by doing something. So this is a composite site, and we got good compost after doing this. So this is one simple example I would like to share with you guys. So I hope everyone get motivated, or you may get motivated soon, because you're all teachers. You have a lot of things to go. Thanks for this best opportunity, I can say, because teaching in the class is not it's easy process, but watching you all in a small screen is difficult for me. But still, I hope I have justified my lecture. Thank you.
I'm very happy that I've been asked to share a session here by Poonam. We both were working together during our tenure in Child Welfare Committee, and I had a very good rapport as well as very good experience working with her. She's very straightforward and she's so committed, and I got good learnings from her. So thank you, Bona. Today, my deliberation would be on child welfare and women welfare. You can tell the condition of a nation by looking at the status of women in that country. That's what Nehru ji had said. Women were once upon a time, that is during the Vedic period, were considered as goddess. They were given spiritual kind of position, but still you find that there's a lot of discrimination even during that period. And later on, you see there are so many social evils that had taken place, like sati, dowry, child marriage, female infanticides, and such evil were prevailing, and that was giving a lot of harassment to the women at that time. Social reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Swami Vivekananda, and Vidyasagar all worked towards this, and to a certain extent managed to managed to abolish these kinds of social evils. And later on, if you see, like with the spread of education and the self-consciousness of women, there were a lot of progress in the field of women empowerment. You can see a drastic change, that a transformation happening, but at the same time, there is a lot of challenges also that the women had to face. According to the UN report, it says that 750,000 abortions are happening in India, and there is a steady increase in the rate of abortions by around. So I've heard about female infanticide in Tamil Nadu, Uslampatti and all that. So things are happening with that is the crime rates are increasing with respect to women. And according to the Indian history, if you see, and even now, like a girl child is not well accepted in the family, a birth of a girl child. While at the same time, if it is a boy child, it is well celebrated. I have friends, the doctors, doctor friends who say that even now there's not much of a difference, because when a girl child is born, the parents, the mother and the just born is actually cursed by the in-laws and the other members of the family. While when if it is a boy, then the whole hospital is given sweets, and everybody celebrates the occasion. So it is a very pathetic situation that still prevails. But once the child is born, you also find the girl child is born, you also find there is a lot of discrimination that is being shown to her. The basic needs of nutrition, healthcare, and livelihood is not being actually given to her. While her brother, he's been given good clothes, he's sent to school, and things are much better for the boy than for a girl. And when it goes with respect to rural areas, you find that most of the girls are not sent to school, and if at all they've sent, they've been school dropouts once they attain the age of puberty, while the boys still continue. And the setup, the environment changes when it comes to the urban setup, wherein which the girls are sent to colleges and schools, and they also end up taking up professional courses, and they are well placed in the society, like doctors, engineers, managers, on that. So when we tend to think that okay, things have changed a lot, and the things look very brighter for the women, but unfortunately, along with the her acceptance in the field of profession. You also find that there are lots of crimes that are still happening, or there is an increase in the crime rates with respect to women. So it's the crimes against for women are like sexual harassment at workplace, abuse, rape, pornography, domestic violence, dowry harassment, dowry death, then pornography, and malnutrition, illiteracy, then the drinking aspect, polygamy. So like that, the crime rates, the types of crimes are too high when with respect to a woman. So the women, what happens is they remain silent. Most of the cases, 99%, the women remain silent for the reason that maybe they are not aware as to whom to go out for help, whom to contact, or with respect to poverty, or it might be the reason that the social stigma attached to it. The well-wishers advise them, don't go and give a complaint. Tomorrow your family and your child will suffer, so that stops them. And also the fear of going to the police, going to the court, and meeting the legal process. So all these stop them from actually taking the initiative and going forward with the complaint. But uh, as the rule, or as per the law, what you need to do is, like, once you come across or you face such kinds of crimes, or you've been abused, you have to immediately report to the police. A police complaint has to be lodged, and a medical care should be immediately given, because you wouldn't know what type of what extent of medical care you need. It may be because of rape, or maybe because you have physical wounds and all that. So an emergency or you say the victims come to me, first inform your family members, tell them that there is a problem there. But unfortunately, they kind of hide all these matters, and they come to us telling that you have to help me, I don't want my family to. But unfortunately, that is not how it has to be. The family has to know first. At least some of your friends have to know what has to be done. And there's legal service authority which helps you with free legal aid. They also give you counseling. You can go to an NGO for support. You can inform a friend, and that friend can support you. There's National Commission for Women, there's State Commission for Women, and so many agencies like District Local Complaints Committee, which we take up sexual harassment at workplace. So there are agencies, and if at all nobody is there, like to support you, just go to the district magistrate and file a complaint. Go to your collector and then file a complaint with them. So it is very, very important. Oh, there is a helpline 181 where you can give a complaint. 1091 is the women helpline. You can give a complaint. A complaint is mandatory, and only then can we help. Or if the perpetrator continues with his crime, and you will be a silent sufferer. So, when we say women have all these fundamental rights, like, any kind of rights, right to vote and right to livelihood, there is also a specific, that is exclusive rights that are being given for women. That is right to equal pay, right to dignity and decency, right against workplace harassment, right against domestic violence, and right to zero FIR, and right to register virtual complaints, right to free legal aid, and right not to be arrested during the midnight. So there are so many such rights just only for women, and we need to take all these things very seriously, and so that we can help you. And the welfare of you is also of prior importance to the society as a whole. It's not that you are alone suffering. Everybody is there to help you. Unless and until you approach and you request for this kind of a help, you're not going to get. There are also acts pertaining To support the women, we have the Domestic Violence Act. It's actually the prohibition of child marriage. Then the dowry prohibition, the maternity benefit, the sexual harassment at workplace, then Workplace Act, and also Divorce Act, and MTP, the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So there are so many acts as well, which are all women friendly and which are there to support women. Only that, we need to make use of it by knowing that these things are available for us and take things forward. Okay, coming to the slide number 1, problems affecting women and child welfare. So the problems they say is undernourishment, malnutrition, limited education, and lower socioeconomic status. Next slide, please. So what is this undernourishment? It is undernourishment is that you don't take enough adequate quantity of food. You need so much of nutrients in your food. The quantity should be well enough for you to sustain, or you will end up having sicknesses of weakness and giddiness, lower working efficiency due to weakness, sickness at increased frequency, poor growth of children, social and mental disorders, and mental retardation. You find all these mostly in the rural areas because the main reason is poverty. And also what happens is the mother, she keeps the lion's share of the food that she cooks for the husband and for the son, while she and her daughter takes a very little share of whatever that has been prepared. So automatically there's a condition of undernourishment. Next, please. Malnutrition, again, it is like lack of food, but especially foods which doesn't contain any vitamins, proteins, minerals. Those kinds of lacunas will lead to illnesses like anemia, goiter, plagiarum, less weight of child at birth, high rate of child mortality, miscarriage, maternal depletion, toxemia of pregnancy. And all these you find affecting the pregnant mothers, lactating mothers, as well as the young children. And in the 2002 census, if you see the infant mortality rate is 68%. Total life expectancy at birth is 633. Next, please. Limited education. So limited education, as I said earlier, the prospects of girl child going to the school is rare, but things have changed now. It is not like before, with the coming in of noon meal scheme, wherein which the parents feel, okay, the kids are getting some kind of nourishment at school, while in the house they don't have enough food to give the child. So let the child go to the school. So that's how the children end up going to the school. But unfortunately, what happens is, once the girl child attains puberty, the child is stopped from going to school. Either like she needs to take care of her younger siblings or help the mother in the household, or she's sent out for job, or mostly it is like she's given away in marriage. So it automatically it is child marriage that's happening, while the boys still continue going to school, and they manage, at least the good ones manage to study. So according to 2001 census, if you see, 50% only reach school, substantial number drop out at the elementary level. Male students, they study up to 75 to 80%, females 54.16%. Next, please. Lower socio-economic status. This again is a reflection of them not the girls, the women not attending school. So once you don't have a proper education, then you are left with whatever jobs that is available, like you might go in to work in the fields, or you might end up working as a casual laborer. But if you had a proper education, maybe your standard of living would have changed. And then ultimately what happens is you still depend on the socio-economic support from the male member of the family. So that is what it shows. And children end up working as child laborers. Next, please. So what are the welfare schemes that the government gives? So we have Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. We have the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan scheme, one-stop crisis. It's a very important thing, the one-stop crisis, because for all our cases, we used to send to one-stop crisis center, where in which, like, you have a police officer, you have a legal person there, and you have the doctor, and then a person from the NGO. So they kind of give all kind of moral support and any kind of support that is required for the victim. And the all the other welfare schemes that you found, the ICDS, the employment of income generating activities. Then you have Ujjwala scheme, where in which the traffic children or women are given a special kind of rehabilitation and then put them back to the mainstream. And also you have the short stay home, the women helpline, you have the police Mahila volunteers who come forward, and they support. These are the government welfare schemes that's there. Next, please. So the need and importance of welfare, why the welfare programs were taken in by the government, is because of the challenges and problems faced by the women, the children, and also to address and to prevent such incidents from happening, to reduce the rate of mortality, this infant mortality as well as maternal, regulate and control malnutrition, eradicating illiteracy, and of course, eradicating female feticide, child marriage, protection of children from trafficking, then their rights, exploitation, abuse, and all the rights of child labor, etc. And of course, the periodic check and review of policies. Next, please. So children, if you say there are women, like there are 48% of women in the whole of India, according to the population census. And if you see, children are 39% of the total population of the census. And children occupy a very important role in the future of our country. And India has the largest population, child population in the whole world. And the children are also the most vulnerable ones who are, exploited and get abused. So here, like 1 in 4 children are school-going children. 33 but 472 are child laborers. Every 150 children go missing. Last 10 years, the crime rates have gone up, and 58% of the children are anemic. 42 are married off. That is with respect to child marriage. Next, please. So, according to the welfare scheme for and these are the child rights, the important child rights: right for survival, right for development, right for protection, and right for participation. And when you come to the welfare part, India government has such good schemes that it has implemented. For example, the quasi government body, that is the Child Welfare Committee. The Child Welfare Committee looks into all the welfare measures of the children. In the helpline that is available for child line is 1098. You have children who are the welfare committee can take up suo motu when it comes to child abuse and cases of POCSO, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. So they can go in for suo motu, child abuse, and any kind of support that is required for a child at the time of crisis. Adoption is also is a very good measure that is being taken up by the government, which is all implemented through the Child Welfare Committee. So you have inter-country adoptions, where in which children usually good and healthy children are adopted in India, while children who are differently challenged are usually adopted by residents of other countries. So and it is also very good to know that the reason why adoption is being made given so much importance is that there should not be a single child who is orphaned. There should be a family that can support a child. So that is the main reason why the adoption process is being done, and we take it very seriously and do the adoptions. And there is also welfare measures in the way of like institutional care. Institutional care, the government has homes like for deaf and dumb children, for differently challenged children, and it also has NGOs which open up shelter homes for the children, short stay home for the children. And you find that children around children, in the sense it is mostly the female child who is brought by the family for such institutional care. And so we have around 67 to 70% of girls in our homes. The reason why they are brought in is like because they feel that it is better to have the boy, the male child with them, or they feel that it is the child is safe in an institutional care, or might be it is because of poverty, or it might be a reason wherein which the environment is not very friendly, and they live in a slum or a village wherein which there are cases of also the earnest feeling of parents that the children have to have proper shelter and proper education. So institutional care will is the best. And we also have single mothers, widows, and women who have suffered domestic violence, who feel that it is not safe for a child to stay at home and see what all harassment she's going through, so that it shouldn't reflect her family life later. So those kinds of mothers, those kinds of children are also brought to us, and they are put up in institutional care. But in certain cases, when we find that the family can afford to look after the child, those kids are always sent back to the family, and the government gives them a scholarship amount of 2,000 for 3 years, depending on how the family situation is. So usually it is when the kid is in 8th standard or 9th standard that we give, so that she doesn't get dropped out from the school. There's no dropout, but she can continue her education. So with that intention, the scholarships are given to the children. And if you see what kind of issues that the children face, there is child marriage, child beggary, there is child labor. Then you have children who are trafficked, pornography threats, children in the streets, the children who are in drugs, children who are with HIV/AIDS, children who don't want to go into institutional care but would just like to roam about, very troublesome kids, in which you have to give them a lot of counseling and then tell them the benefits of it. Then you also have children who are juveniles in conflict with law, who have committed a murder, who are into stealing, and all such, or who have committed child abuse. So those kinds of kids are also brought to the Juvenile Justice Board, and the counseling part and the welfare part, the Child Welfare Committee takes care of. So. So children have a lot of issues, and we as adults, we should be in a position to support them, help them, make them understand, and that is very, very important. And as teachers, you all have a very important role to play, because the child leaves, or the student leaves the home by say around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and is at the college or in the school the whole day. And you know them better than anybody else, and you need to support them and help them. And if a child is sober, normally very active, very what do you say, very enthusiastic child, you find that he or she is very quiet and is not like before. Just call upon the child, find out what issues the child is facing, what is the problem that she has, and if anything is wrong, just inform the parents. And if you really find there is some kind of an abuse that has happened to the child, it is mandatory that you inform the concerned authorities. It can be a child helpline, it can be CWC or the protection officer, the probation officer, and the social welfare department. But you need to do your duty as a teacher and support the children. Next slide, please. Next slide. To fight against such crimes. So usually, the activists say all that you need is male bashing. You need to bash the men, but it is not so. In fact, it is like you have to take the men along with you, not leave them behind, but take them along with you in your process, in your journey of fight. And also, the women's movements were not against sexist. It was actually against fight against oppression. So we need to definitely fight for the rights in a very active way so that it will support us. But it is sometimes very unfortunate that, when we file a complaint and the case is taken up seriously, an FIR is filed, and the case comes to the court, we find that most of these victims, along with the family members, just turn hostile and they say, no, nothing of this has happened. This is all fabricated. So these things are, very disheartening, especially for someone who actually goes to the extent of, supporting the family, supporting the victim, and, trying the best to see that the abuser or the perpetrator is being sentenced to jail. So these things we always find is very disheartening. And, all these well-wishers, they say that, please don't file a complaint. This is not required. There's no need for you to do it. Please don't listen to them. As you see or as you feel any kind of crime that is happening, please take up the necessary action. Be bold enough to fight and do that is needful. A small support, a small, a trigger, the right appropriate time, a push can change a lot of things for, women and children, especially creation. So you need to know what your rights are, what are the laws pertaining to the crimes that are there, what are the welfares that the government is giving us, how do we make best use of it, what are the agencies that you need to contact. For example, with respect to women and child, you have the social welfare department, you have the women and child department, anything to do with the elderly, also the same departments. They support, and they also give you all kinds of informations and how to go about with the entire process. Male bashing is not a solution to such issues, but you need to definitely take the men along with you, not leave them behind, and then carry on with the work that you intend to take. And also the women's movements were not, movements against sexism. It was against the suppression. The women wanted their voices to be heard. So similarly, you need to fight for yourself. The three most important rights which I feel will be that right to education, right to equal pay, and and right to be independent. And three most important, things which or again it's me, which I feel will be very important, will be that the way we dress up. Nobody has got the right to say no to how we dress up, and always to say no and to take things up very seriously and determine what you need to do. So these are the things. And with respect to the teachers, be assertive in your work. Go along with the children, support the children, do a learning process with the children, be complimenting them. Only then, you can get the actual response from the students. Be a role model, be a good listener. So the child comes to you, just listen to him or her if they have any issues, and you will be applauded as one of the best teacher, and they will think of you lifelong. So what best we can do, we need to do. And according to my school motto, do your best and God will do the rest, and keep up your good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your supporting words and the role of teachers. What we have to do, we will do our job with respect to women and child welfare, ma'am. And one participant has asked, is there any rights, especially related to women, with regard to environmental protection? Ma'am?
Hello? I can't hear you.
Hello?
Okay, I'll finish with one last line.
Yes, ma'am.
Do your duty, come what may. Do it bravely, day by day.
Explanation related to women's rights, may I request our principal, Dr. Shellan Shivan, to give proposed vote of thanks.
Good evening from Pondicherry to our participants from the different states. Thank you for having been with us for the webinar on environmental studies. We sincerely hope that all the 4 sessions have been informative. Kindly give us your feedback in the Google form that will be emailed to each one of you. We hope to conduct another webinar soon, and your feedback will assist us in improving the quality of our sessions. I would like to thank all the 4 resource persons for their time and knowledge and the willingness to share their personal experiences and struggles in protecting the environment. They all work at the ground level and know better than anyone else what working for the environment entails. I would also like to thank Dr. Rani, Dr. Gandhi Mohan, Dr. Bhuvaneshwari, and Mr. Padmaraj from the Women's Polytechnic College and Kasturba College for Women for making this webinar possible. Some things such as connectivity on both sides is beyond either one of our controls. So thank you for being accommodating. Till we meet again, goodbye and take care. Stay safe more than anything else.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, if you have any feedbacks or anything else, you can send it to us through our WhatsApp or email. Or even here also, someone can unmute their mic and you can give your views. And there will be a assignment for today's session also. Shortly, we will send the assignment questions to your email and WhatsApp. So tomorrow evening, you might get your certificates based on your assignment submissions.
Can I talk, sir?
Yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Dr. Raj Lakshmi.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm working as assistant professor in Pondicherry Veterinary College. So when I attended all these 4 sessions, it was very informative, and the way the resource people were, enthusiastic, it just stuck to us. So thanks for arranging such a nice webinar, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you. So any other participants? So now I conclude the session.
Good evening to all.
Yes, sir, please.
This is Dr. Ramkumar calling from Kasturba College for Women.
Welcome, sir.
At the outset, I'd like to thank both the premier institutions, namely Kasturba College for Women and Women's Polytechnic Lospet Puducherry, for having been so thoughtful of conducting such a webinar at this stage. And all the 4 resource persons were very informative. They had a very sound knowledge in their respective field, and they have passed on to their level best to us. We'll surely take them home and implement. So thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your nice feedback. Thank you. Any other participants? Okay, so come to the conclusions. We are winding up the today's sessions, and I am very much thankful to all the participants for patiently watching our workshop and giving the constant support to us for the successful of these webinars and workshops, conferences, many things we are conducting. Thank you so much, and we'll meet you again in the next forthcoming workshop. Thank you.